The room breathes in dust and exhaustion. Faint light spills through cracks in the ceiling, catching the motion of children hunched over their work. Dozens of small hands dance through tangled threads, weaving beauty into carpets they will never own. The sound of looms replaced laughter, mechanical, alive. In that sea of silence sits one child, barely 4 years old. His name is Iqbal Masih, and this is his story, the story that would inspire millions.
He was born in 1983 in a small town near Lahore, Pakistan. His parents were very poor brick kiln workers who earned barely enough to eat. When a family relative needed money for a wedding, they borrowed what seemed like a harmless amount, 12 American dollars. But the system that loan came from was anything but harmless. It was called bonded labor, a practice where debt changed generations.
In this system, a single loan could enslave an entire family. The factory owner advanced money to desperate parents. In return, the child was sent to work until the loan was repaid. But the rules were designed so that repayment never came. Food was charged to the debt, tools were charged to the debt. Even the dust the children breathed was counted as part of the debt.
By the mid 1980s, Pakistan's handmade carpet industry was booming. Western buyers prized its fine detail, and newspapers celebrated it as nation's pride. Few asked how those carpets were made. Behind each masterpiece lay a hidden world of suffering, where tiny fingers wove luxury into the lives of strangers. Iqbal was sold to one such factory when he was 4. Every morning before sunrise, he sat at a loomy barely the size of his body. He tied more than 10,000 knots a day, 16 hours of work for a bowl of rice and a cup of water. He was beaten when he slowed down. The owner told him he was lazy, that he owed more than before. For years, Iqbal believed him.
The factory was a world without laughter. The windows were sealed to keep the dust from escaping. The children's eyes dimmed under the weight of repetition. Their backs bent, their skin cracked, their hands bled. They never learned to count in numbers, but in knots. Freedom was a word that no longer belonged to them. Yet, even in darkness, a spark can survive. Iqbal began to listen to whispers from older children about a group that was freeing bonded laborers, the Bonded Labor Liberation Front, led by a man named Ehsanullah Khan. The idea seemed impossible. How could a child escape a system guarded by fear? But hope, once born, refuses to stay silent.
One day, during a local festival when the factory was left unguarded, Iqbal slipped through the door and ran. He ran through fields, over stone, past the walls that had caged his life. When he reached the nearest town, he found the people he had only heard about, the BLLF. For the first time, he was offered food, safety, and something far greater, a classroom. He was small for his age, underfed, fragile, yet his eyes were alive. Within weeks, he learned to read and write. Within months, he learned what had been done to him. The law of Pakistan had abolished bonded labor in 1992. His bondage, and that of thousands like him, was illegal. That realization transformed him.
Iqbal began to speak, at first to small gatherings of freed children, then to journalists, politicians, and eventually to the world. His voice was clear, soft, and unwavering. I am one of millions of children who are suffering in child labor, he said. I want to do something for them. He was barely 10. His courage gave others courage. Factories began to realize children out of fear of exposure. Newspapers printed his story. He traveled across Pakistan with the BLLF, standing on makeshift stages and speaking about freedom. Wherever he went, people listened. Not because he was powerful, but because he was proof that even the smallest voice could carry the weight of truth.
In 1994, Iqbal traveled beyond Pakistan. He addressed conferences in Sweden and the United States, telling the audiences that child slavery was not a relic of the past but a wound still bleeding in the modern world. In one speech, he said, "You may not understand my language, but you can understand my tears." The room rose in applause. That same year, he received the Reebok Human Rights Award. He was 11 years old. But fame never distracted him. He often told reporters that he wanted to become a lawyer to fight the system that had enslaved him. He returned home determined to continue his mission. With BLLF, he helped identify illegal factories, free other children. His words inspired movements abroad and fear at home.
On April 16, 1995, Iqbal rode his bicycle through his village visiting relatives during Easter celebrations. Somewhere along that road, gunfire erupted. He was killed instantly. He was 12. The official investigation offered conflicting stories: a local feud, a personal dispute, yet many believed it was retaliation by factory owners who had lost their labor force. The truth may never be known. What is certain is that a voice that had reached across oceans was silenced in an instant.
But the echo did not die. News of his death spread worldwide. Candlelight vigils were held from Lahore to London. Letters poured in from children who had never met him but now carried his dream. His story inspired a generation of young activists. In Canada, two 12-year-old boys, Craig and Mark, read about Iqbal and founded Free the Children, an organization that would grow into a global youth movement. In Pakistan, lawmakers renewed their efforts to enforce the Bonded Labor Abolition Act. Inspections increased. Awareness campaigns began in schools. His name appeared in textbooks as a symbol of courage. Teachers told his story not as tragedy, but as a triumph.
Over time, the world began to listen. International campaigns pressured corporations to trace the origins of their products. Global child labor numbers began to fall, from 246 million in the year 2000 to around 160 million 2 decades later. Progress. Yes, but not victory. Because even today, millions of children still wake before dawn to work. Not in carpet factories, perhaps, but in fields, in mines, in construction sites, in hidden workshops. Some dig for cobalt to power the devices in our hands. Others stitch the clothes we wear. Their faces may be unseen, but their struggle remains Iqbal's.
His story forces us to look beyond comfort. Behind every object of luxury, there may lie invisible hands. Behind every price tag, an unpaid childhood. Iqbal told the world that freedom is not a gift bestowed, it is a right claimed. He once said, "We are the voice of those children who cannot speak for themselves." And he was right. His life was brief, 12 short years, yet it altered the conscience of nations. He proved that changes does not wait for age or power. It begins the moment one person dares to say, "No more."
Today, his legacy lives in classrooms built in his name, in laws strengthened by his sacrifice, and in the hearts of those who still fight against exploitation, in places where children learn instead of labor, where laughter replaces silence, his spirit endures. Iqbal Masih was a child who defied a system. He was chained by poverty, yet he broke the chains of millions. His voice was small, but its echo became thunder.
He reminded humanity of something simple and eternal, that the measures of a society is not found in its wealth, but in the way it protects its children. Iqbal Masih, the boy who stood against slavery and proved that even the smallest voices can awaken the world.